Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Maria T for those that don't know me. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, you're welcome to the family. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. So today's video is just going to be 20 things that I've learned in 2020. Now we know 2020 came through with its lessons, and there's obviously been more than 20 things that I've learned that you guys have learned, but I've just chosen 20 things. And I hope that you guys can relate to some of these, and I hope that it would also kind of spark some of you guys to think about the lessons that you have learned this year as well. So let's get right into it. So the first lesson that I learned 2020 is the fact that we do not know tomorrow. We do not know tomorrow, and we think we do a lot of the times, but one thing that 2020 definitely came through to remind us is that we do not know tomorrow. And coming from 2019, I'm sure a lot of us made many plans for 2020, and then obviously it just didn't go according to plan. But there's a scripture in James, and it talks about how when going on a journey, that we shouldn't say that, oh yeah, going for 1 year and I will do this, I'll do that. And it reminds us of the importance of us kind of just being like, if it's God's will, that by God's grace. And even growing up, I remember hearing that statement a lot, by God's grace. And I guess it wasn't until I grew older that I understood that, do you know what? Even though sometimes people just use it as a statement, it's so important for us to acknowledge that even all of the things that we've achieved this year is God's grace. So 2020 definitely came through to remind us that we think that we know everything, we think that we know tomorrow, but we really don't. Number 2, guys, is in life there are seasons. Now this is one that I was reminded of. I'm sure we all know this already, but just like there is spring, there's summer, there is autumn, there's winter, when it comes to life as well, we face different seasons. Some seasons might be more pleasant than others, but one thing that we do know is that what is guaranteed is a seasonal change, if that makes sense. So you might be in, I don't know, summer season right now in your life, or maybe a winter season. And one thing that we know is that seasons change and seasons do not last forever. So yeah, I guess that's a bit of hope for us, I guess, that even when we are in the tough seasons, the hard seasons, we just trust and believe that good seasons will come, right? So that was number 2. It just reminded me that, yeah, in life there are times and seasons. Number 3, peace is everything. Peace is everything. And I feel like when you experience a lack of peace, then when you actually experience peace, you actually realize that peace is not something that you take for granted. Like sometimes we do take peace for granted, but 2020 came through to remind us that, listen, don't take peace for granted ever again. When you have peace, hold on to it, grab it and keep it, because peace is priceless, essentially. Number 4, health is wealth. Do you know what? 2020 came through to teach us that, and also the pandemic came to come and remind us of that, because sometimes we do forget that. And again, it's kind of like the previous point, whereby when you've experienced a lack of health and then you have good health, you will appreciate that good health. And something that someone said to me actually this year, which has kind of stuck with me, is that we're so quick to pray that God, like, heal me from this, heal me from that. But sometimes, obviously this is not always the case, but sometimes we find ourselves in certain positions with our health because of the way we're eating, or because we're not exercising, we're not looking after our health. And it's like you're praying, God, heal me from this, when God has given us the resources that we need. He's given us the food that we can eat, but we're not eating right. We're not exercising. And then we're like, oh, I need to be healed. Obviously, again, this is not always the case, but sometimes we just need to remember that, listen, health is wealth. So every opportunity that we do have in order to take care of our health, we shouldn't take it for granted, honestly. The next one, yes. This one is, yeah, from my first video that I made, you guys will be able to remember this, but I spoke about authenticity, and 2020 just really reminded me that we need to just do us, like, do you, boo. Like, literally, 2020 came to remind us that authenticity is beautiful, and it's so important for us to be ourselves. One thing that one of my friends said to me one time was that, listen, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, because if you are, then you are a mug. And honestly, that is the reality. Like, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that is okay. It's actually okay. And 2020 just came to remind me that we should do us. Number 6. Yes, I love this one as well. Staying indoors is a vibe. Staying indoors, guys, is a vibe. And I don't know if this is like a positive or negative, because honestly, I've become so accustomed to being inside that to go out is even an effort. Going out, visiting other people indoors, it's a vibe. Like, being able to go in loungewear, not having to put on makeup, not having to do any of that or wear heels, or the effort of going out, especially now in winter, only just reminded me that, yeah, being indoors is honestly a vibe. The next one is number 7, which is fellowship with other believers is everything. And this one's obviously been so important, like, now that we've been pretty much in lockdown for a lot of the year and we're not in that physical place with people in church and stuff. We think that, okay, yeah, we have to be in person. And don't get me wrong, there is power with us obviously being in person, but even online, the way fellowship can take place is just amazing. And I've really used online and technology for things such as fellowship, because trust me, the power of community, the power of fellowship, 2020 definitely came through to tell me or teach me that. The next one is number 8, which is, yes, this one is very key, man. Whew. It is so important for us to check up on others. It's so important, like, when someone comes to your mind, when someone comes to your spirit, to just reach out to that person, or even if you're not able to pray for that person. And I feel like sometimes as well, this is something that we, I don't know, I would say take for granted, the fact that we have phones, so it's actually easy to just WhatsApp someone, message someone. Because honestly, guys, sometimes it can become a thing where it's too late. Like, someone can come to your mind and you're like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to them tomorrow, but who knows what could happen tomorrow. So this is one thing that definitely 2020 has taught me, and is just reminding me constantly that, listen, reach out to people. Like, it's very easy for us to be like, oh yeah, people don't reach out to me. And trust me, sometimes I feel like, who has even reached out to me this whole time? But at the end of the day, it's not about that. Like, that's kind of childish when we kind of sit upon that. And I think that's something that I had to kind of brush away, that, listen, even if people don't reach out to you as often, listen, people are going through their own stuff. You're not the only one in this life, okay? And sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that. So if someone comes to your mind, like, let's just reach out to them. That's definitely a key lesson from 2020. So the next one, guys, is number 9. Some of the things that we thought are very important, 2020 very quickly came to remind us that it's not so important after all. And I feel like when the first lockdown came, it was just like, oh wow, like, I really just thought this was everything in life, but it's actually not. Like, there's so many more important things in life. And yeah, sometimes we just have to remind ourselves of that, to be honest. Even though 2020 came through to remind us of that, we have to remind ourselves of that as well, that some things are not as important as we kind of make them to be. And the things that, because we're making those things so important, we're neglecting the things that are truly important. And yeah, we just can't do that, to be honest. We can't do that. So yeah, definitely came through to remind us that prioritize the things that are important, and then everything else can kind of follow, I guess. The next one is, yes, number 10. Wasting your breath, wasting your time, wasting your energy on things that are worthless is waste. And honestly, I just feel like sometimes we actually just waste our energy in things that we have no time getting involved in. And this can go for a lot of things, to be honest. This could go when it comes to like drama, bye-bye. Negativity, bye-bye. Or even sometimes it could be even deeper than that, and us spending our time on things that maybe you're not supposed to be doing that thing. Maybe God didn't call you to that, but you're doing it. And because you're wasting your energy on that, the thing that you should be focusing your energy on, you're not doing that. And yeah, for me, I just feel like, honestly, I just don't have time for unnecessary drama. Like, when it comes to like arguing, I just don't have time for all of that. Like, if it's not necessary, honestly, bye. And I think 2020 just reminded me that, listen, this life, you have to just hold on to it, because it's really precious. It's really precious. And the things that we should be focusing our energy and our time on, we really need to focus it on those things rather than wasting them. Next one, Number 11, yeah, so this one is a lot of like uprisings are short-lived, and what I mean by that is that when we think of certain things like NSARS and just certain things that have happened this year, I feel like there's always like this uprising where it's like you're hearing about it for like 2 weeks and it's like yeah, oh my gosh, this, and then after that it's just kind of like you don't really hear about it anymore. And I really noticed that, and for me it's like when it comes to certain things like this, I've obviously just kind of got to that point where I'm like, I need to be more intentional with following what's happening with these things. So even though, for example, we're not really hearing much about NSARS, but it doesn't mean that I should forget about it or forget what happened, you know? It's something that we have to continue to follow as much as we can. And if we are able to do anything, to do what we can, because trust me, uprisings come and then they go, and then something else will come and then you will forget about the previous thing. But we have to not forget, basically. The next one is, yes, this one as well. Your faith gonna be tested. Your faith gonna be tested, okay? 2020 definitely showed me that our faith will be tested, and I think a lot of people's faith was tested this year, probably, especially because we weren't in church, or we weren't really, connected as much, I guess, initially. It kind of did test a lot of people's trust in God. Like, could they trust God? Obviously, people dealt with all sorts of things this year. The next one, which is number 13, is that, this is kind of linked to the previous one, but many of us were just doing church for years. Like, I feel like a lot of people probably had more of a relationship with church than they had with God, or they had more of a relationship with their pastor than they had with God. And then obviously 2020 hit, lockdown hit, and it was just like, listen, it's you by yourself, okay? Even your pastor, they're dealing with their own, you know, you to deal with your own. And it just reminded us of how important a personal relationship with God is. Like, it's not enough just to talk of God. Like, some people are talking of God more than they actually talk to God. And 2020 definitely came to remind us that that's not enough, which nicely leads me to my next point, which is number 14, that it's not good enough to just look like a Christian or to just hold the title of Christian. Because I feel like everyone can say they're Christian, but I feel like 2020 just, showed us that there's Christian and then there's obviously Christian. And sometimes we hold the title of Christian, or we call ourselves Christian, or we go to church on a Sunday and it's like, I'm a Christian. But 2020 actually made us kind of question or search ourselves that, do you know what, am I actually really a Christian? And I'm gonna kind of touch upon this in my next video, but that's definitely something that I noticed this year, and 2020 came to remind us. The next one is that number 15, everything done in darkness will eventually be brought to light. And I know there's a scripture about this, I believe in Luke, but this year definitely showed us that. And we all prayed for 2020 vision. We were like, God, we want 2020 vision. Give us 2020 vision, God. And God gave us that. Like, genuinely, I went through this year and I was just feeling like the things that God has been seeing for years that we have not been seeing, God brought them to the light. And it was literally a year of exposure. It was a year of revealing, honestly. And that's good and bad. And it just showed me that sometimes let's not be too quick for what we ask for. Like, if we're asking for 2020 vision, God's gonna give us that. And some of us were not ready to see some of the things that had been done in darkness being brought to light. So and then the next one is also similar to that, number 16, which is that God cannot be mocked. God cannot be mocked. And this one as well is something that kept coming back throughout the year. God is not mocked. And I believe it's Galatians 6 that talks about this, and it says that whatever you sow, you shall reap. God cannot be mocked. Next one is, one thing that we can be sure of in life is change. Yes, one thing that we can definitely be sure of in this life is change. And that kind of links to my second point about seasons. But a lot of people had to adjust this year. A lot of people had to change. A lot of people experienced change this year. And that's one thing that in life we can be sure of. Like, nothing in life is permanent, I guess. And then the next one, 18, is the power of rest and trusting in God. And that's not just physical rest as well. I think a lot of us, because we were so used to that whole busy lifestyle, busyness, we kind of got to that point where we had to slow down, like, which is the next point, 19. we found ourselves slowing down and reflecting more. Whereas because everything was so fast-paced before, we never really had that time to slow down or to just stop for a moment. And 2020 definitely caused us to slow down, or caused some of us to even stop and just be like, do you know what? Let me just take that time to reflect. And then the last one, number 20, which I have saved to last for a reason, is that God is still God and God is still good. And I think that this is something that we need to remind ourselves of, because throughout this year, all of that, the things that have happened can easily make people think that, well, where is God? Where is God? Like, I remember seeing something on Twitter and someone was like, when it came to the whole NSARS thing, that, oh, see, where is God then? And that's just another video again on its own, but God is still God and God is still good. So yeah, honestly, guys, 2020 has come through with its lessons. It's been a year of unlearning and relearning, but yeah, comment below on some of the lessons that you've learned this year. I'd be very interested to see some of the things you guys have learned. And guys, until next time, peace out and God bless. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
He gets the victory. He gets the victory.